Welcome everybody to the Cosmic Tower Q&A call on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. It's exciting to gather with you again. I got a Cosmic Tower story from this morning. There's a guy who did some flooring work in my home a couple of weeks ago, and it didn't take very well. So he came back today to see how it was, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna redo the job." And so he was in the house for about a minute, and he's walking back out, and he goes, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, that's a Cosmic Tower 220." He's like, "Yeah, is it a camera or something? Like, what is it? Like, what am I feeling?" And I was like, "Well." And I told him what a Cosmic Tower was, and he's like, "My body totally recognizes it." I was like, "That's pretty cool." So the the energy fields and the people getting more sensitive. Like, I just love that a flooring guy would like come here to look at the floor, and that's what his experience of being in the home would be. And I've been getting, Nico, this is a great time for both of us to share because, I know you were away from your towers for a while, and we talked about that a little bit on the last Q&A. And my relationship with my towers has definitely been deepening. And one of the things that has become compelling for me now is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing is connecting with my body. And as much as I want to think about the cosmic towers right away, it's not how it goes. Like, um, I have to check in with my body first and do some practices that I learned when I was going through some body work over the last 3 months. So I start every morning there. And then I shift my focus to my CT75 that's in my bedroom and that I have assigned to my health. And so that's number two. And then number three is I shift to Merlin, the Maui magician, who is out here in the living room. And I focus on Maui as a whole, and particularly the toxicity that's been here. And directing Merlin to uplift Maui, which, Nico, how many times have you said to me when I've had some issue on Maui, it's like, "Well, have you asked the tower to remediate that?" Ask the tower. And every time I'm like, "Oh, I never thought of that." And so now it's like every morning it's a practice. And then I move from Merlin on Maui to the whole network globally. And I've been visualizing this network of harmonic energy being so strong that it's not even like there isn't a thought about that. We're not, "Hey Zane, welcome." I've been emailing with Zane this week. He's been missing the Lavanya calls and gathering as a community. So I'm just happy to see your face and want to say hi. And so there's like this deepening of the visualization of the cosmic tower network that it kind of just crowds out, or there's no room for the 5G network. It just is the cosmic tower network that we're living in. And if you guys have seen the map of the greater United States recently, like, we're well covered with the big towers. Like, there are definitely large swaths of land that are uncovered, but they tend to be areas like the Dakotas and Wyoming that don't have a lot going on in them. But the places where a lot of people live and that all of us are really, really well covered, which is amazing. So anyway, that's become my morning practice, and it just starts life out a little bit differently. And then as I bounce through my day, I just keep attuning to and feeling that there's this network of harmonic fields all across the world, and that we're really doing it. And I'm so happy to be a part of that. So I guess since I stole the mic, I get to share. And thank you for that opportunity. If anybody wants to share their own stories, they're welcome to. And Nico, of course, I'm going to prompt you for yours, because I know that living without a tower, particularly by the end, got to be like a little bit of a strain. So tell us about your experience.
Well, yeah, and first I want to talk about the coverage. I mean, yeah, it is like that when you look at it from the range, but we're gonna need a whole lot more big towers. I mean, definitely, in the larger cities and that, it's just not a matter of having one tower, cover the area, right? We always have to look at how much distorted energy there's there. And we're gonna need a whole lot of towers in the big cities, right? To really to really flip like the momentum from the energy being detrimental to being uplifted. I just wanted
I
to
think
add that.
I
Yeah.
think that's a really important point, and it's like we're at the level of what's possible now. So now there are big towers around, and focused intent can connect with them, which is really amazing.
Hmm.
And so I think part of that like warmth that I'm visualizing is like seeing harmonic energy just popping everywhere, you know? Um, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's definitely an important point. I just don't want people to think that if we have everything covered that it's like done, right? Like there's other dynamics and absolutely what we focus on. I mean, our consciousness keeps getting more powerful too, and as the consciousness is changing, so where we put our awareness is really important, right? I mean, I get a lot of emails from people that are highly sensitive, and the 5G, is really taking an effect on them. But often what they have in common too is that they're really focused on 5G, and they're, oh, another tower went up, and they constantly have their awareness there. So it's really important that, yeah, if you have the cosmic tower or any other harmonious energy, the more you put your awareness there, it's always you strengthen that, right? And yeah, I just had an experiment where I was in Thailand and Vietnam. Without my towers, I did have my biogeometry solutions with me, but it wasn't until I got here a few days ago, and there's a 250 right there, and then there's a 75 here, and there's a few other towers. I realized like not only how powerful the towers are, but definitely when it comes to the emotional and the mental level, how supportive the towers are. And that's not really, I've been around towers, for over 2 years consistently, and it wasn't really until I got a break from that that I realized, like, oh man, the tower does really support us, especially also in the mental and the emotional. I mean, it's not like when I'm around the towers that I don't have my challenges like any other human. We're still working through our stuff, but I definitely went a lot deeper down the hole, if you want to call it that, without the towers around. So I do realize that, yeah, that being in that harmonious field and having that support, it doesn't mean you don't have your work still cut out for you, but it's definitely a whole lot more graceful uh, with having the towers around. So I'm grateful for the experience because it really, was a great reminder of how much of a help the towers really are, things that we take for granted. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, not doing that again.
yeah. Yeah, well that learning from having exposure to something and then having it taken away or moved away, like it really does deepen the learning. And I think it's an important part of the journey to really clarify what's important. You've spent time with me here on Maui, and you've watched me go through this real estate search. And recently, as I was going through a lot of detoxification and really feeling up against it, I started driving over to the Eau Valley more. And it's about a 35 or 40-minute drive from here. And as I drove over there and got in the water each day, like repeatedly, I realized how important it is to be near there. And so I'm actually now thinking that living in the shadow of the Eau Valley, even though there's some undesirable characteristics over there, might might be worth it because it's that important to me to have moving water and living water. So having it, not having it kind of opens up these sensitivities and these awarenesses about what's important in life. So I'm thankful for your experience, even if you didn't love every bit of it. Um, Ed put a comment in the chat that I'm going to go to, which is, I'd be interested to hear anyone's opinions on our devices listening and watching us, if you believe in this and how to mitigate it. Ed, I don't really see it as an issue of believing in something. Like, I have a 2024 Toyota Corolla, and often it talks as though I've said something to it, and I never say anything to it. And so it, it'll just out of nowhere, the speaker will come on, and it'll say, please say a command or something. And I'm like, yeah, I got a command for you. Like, shut the fuck up, right? Like, I don't want to be talking to my car. And my car is definitely listening to me. And so it's not a belief thing. Like, I've seen these things turn on and activate themselves in response to language, and that is happening. So I don't know if anybody wants to share anything about whether they think that's true or not, or how to mitigate it. Arthur Furstenberg just died last week, and for those who don't know, I think the correct title of the book is Invisible Rainbow, right, Zane? Yeah. And Arthur went to med school, and he planned a career of helping people in health, and then he became EMF sensitive decades ago, and he spent his life dedicated to an extraordinary voice of bringing our attention to these electronics and electricity and what it is doing to us. And the solution is to throw our devices out, right? That's the solution. And short of that, turning them off more and only using them when we need to, that seems like a good choice. Does anybody else want to comment on the topic?
Well, I think just in general, I mean, we're talking about devices now, right? But really to think that, we have our thoughts and we have the things that we're talking about and it's private. I mean, we're getting away from that, right? Everything is connected. And we're moving more towards a society where there isn't really any like hiding about how you feel or thinking your thoughts. I mean, we talk about it technologically, but definitely when the consciousness is shifting, everybody will pretty much be an open book.
That's a great point. I was walking the dog the other day, and this guy that I know was riding by on a motorcycle, and I waved at him, and he didn't see me. And he didn't see me because he was so deep in his thoughts, and he looked miserable, just absolutely miserable. And I was like, he thinks his thoughts are private, like going by me. Like, he's so not here that he doesn't even notice I'm waving at him. And like, wow, that was really obvious. Like, all there is to do is like say a prayer for the guy, and hope that he finds some ease with whatever he's chewing on. So yes, a good point, Nico. Yeah, Karen, jump in. We're definitely becoming more sensitive and aware of what other people are thinking about.
I just want to say I talk to all my devices and to work in harmony with me or contribute to me, and to be aware. And then so we have I go to a multiple sclerosis support group, and we brought our little hat that has red light therapy in it as well, because we were trying to show that how it can work and whatever. And just by turning it on, and the hat was aimed towards one person, she practically jumped out of her seat. And I didn't know if that was like an overreaction, because she uses red light herself, but she was like, so sometimes people have these reactions, and how do you like honor someone like they're having a reaction? All I can do is just turn the hat down so it wasn't aiming at her. And she uses red light therapy. So I mean, when people overreact, I mean, people just like, we live in a world where people are overly sensitive, right? So anyways, do you have any suggestions when people respond with an overreaction? Any comments on that?
No, not particularly, but I know the more we are actually connected, the less you get that.
Oh, okay.
Right. I think a lot of like the quote unquote overreaction is because we don't really feel connected to others. And the deeper your connection gets and the deeper your source connection get, the less of that there is there. Right.
Okay.
It's like almost like maybe like somebody punching you or you're holding their hand. You're connected to them.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you
Right.
for that, Nico. That's beautiful.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
go ahead, Zane.
Yeah, Karen, I wanted to respond to that, the reaction. I've been practicing in daily life, my response to things or my reactions. And when I find myself reacting or slipping into that berating state or whatever, I go ask myself, who's feeling this?
Hmm.
And immediately I separate out from it. It's my true self is watching this part of my old self, the ego, whatever, reacting. And so that's been really helpful to me. I kind of press the pause button there and reconnect. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for throwing that in there, Zane. Appreciate it. Anybody aware of anybody that's ever taken their tower for an aura photo?
Nope.
Linda,
Had
looks like,
aura photos taken, but not with the tower.
yeah, Melinda, looks like we might be a no on that one, but if anybody has the opportunity and is so inspired, we'd love to hear what you see. Could be a lot of fun with the right equipment and the right people.
So I wonder if you could take your tower to, thermography. It's a different kind. I think maybe it's similar. I'm not sure, but you could get breast and tummy, scans of heat, right? Thermography. And I wonder if that do you think that might affect it too as well?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, those are two different things, right? Like the thermography. I mean, definitely it could be because you would see inflammation in the body and those types of things. So you could see a reduction in that. But with those things, hey, call them out to the community, try it out, right? Else we're just speculating. And yeah, the aura photography also works a little differently in the sense that it's not really taking the picture of your aura, but it's measuring through your hands. It's actually measuring the energy in your body, and then it gets overlaid on the photo, right? So it's not like true Carillion photography, at least the photos they take at like the psychic fairs, etc. But yeah, try it out.
it sounds like Melinda might try it. So yeah, Melinda, we'd love to hear what you think. Has anybody been doing any Bovis measurements with the Cosmic Tower and have any results to share? That's a question from Ed. I know Theo's done a lot of measurements. Unfortunately, he's not on this call, but he is actually, I think, planning to publish some of those results. We're working on a revamp of our website, bringing things in a little simpler. If you are stocking some of the kind of side products that we have, like nanosoma or the minerals or anything, this might be a good time to stock up and get yourself a supply to have on hand, because those don't feel like the essence of what we do. And we're bringing the website in to really focus on cosmic towers and aqua energizers, and we're going to let go of a couple of the pieces around the edges. So if you have any concerns about supply, you want to email them to me, and we can see if we can work out getting you what you need before we shut those things down. Okay. Nico, will the Blue Shield Schumann device interfere with the Cosmic Tower?
From my experience, it doesn't, right? But in general, with people that have questions about devices, it's always best to measure it. But I've actually, I had one of those, and it didn't seem to interfere with the tower.
And are you measuring with biogeometry tools?
Yeah, I do that too.
You
Right.
just, you recommend people measure, and I'm just curious, like, how you would do that.
Yeah, I like to use the biogeometry tools, but there's many other tools, right? There's many other ways of dowsing and muscle testing, etc. So people might have their own way, but basically, you always want to test to whether they're compatible, right, and whether the effect is strengthened or weakened, right?
Okay, great. I saw a podcast where a user said the tower attracts wildlife to the yard. We're concerned about attracting ticks as Lyme is rampant in Maryland. Have you received any feedback regarding this?
No, we haven't. And we've actually, and remember that the tower creates a more harmonious, a more natural environment. And often, like for termites, for example, which are, organisms that are drawn to decay, right? Oftentimes there is a way too much decay. It's out of balance in a certain place because of, it also has to do, with non-native EMFs and other factors. So I don't know. I think Richard, I saw on the call. I know there's some people here that actually noticed that, they didn't have termites anymore. Once they had a cosmic tower. I also know this is the case with the biogeometry. Once the area or the room or the house is balanced out, that these animals, or these organisms that are attracted to decay, and it's out of natural balance, that tends to resolve itself, right? But remember, even in nature, you have both energies, right? You have the energies of growth, but there's also decay, because if there would only be growth, we'd run out of space, right? But it's really a matter of what is natural, what is harmonious, right? And I think these days, with like the non-native EMFs and other energies, we really have certain areas or certain parts or certain places where it's completely out of balance, right? The whole balance between the growth and then the decay. So again, the cosmic tower restores that to where it's natural. And then with things like wildlife, yeah, it's just in general, like wildlife especially, they're typically not attracted to EMFs and very urban environments and city environments. So once we start harmonizing the environment again, they get attracted to those areas. So yeah, the cosmic tower brings the balance back and brings it towards natural.
Nice. Melinda shared in the chat that she feels like pests have declined, that they're less after having the tower for a year. So it's an interesting observation. I feel like living in the field of the tower, everything's just coming back to the natural and to balance all the time. And so if there's a increase in something, then that's because it's a remedy for greater balance, and it just needs some attention. And I feel like having the towers around things make more sense, and I become more capable of stewarding myself and my property as I watch the little balances and imbalances and just keep tuning in. Starting to get pretty good at taking care of this property. I've been here since June. I really got the fish pond rolling now, and there was about a month that the pump stopped working, and that wasn't good. And it's recovering to have everything green again and really flowing. And I'm a little bit proud of it. Like, you know, I'm paying enough attention to it to have a really harmonious environment. And I don't remember how many fish were here when I got here in June, but I'm guessing like 20, and it feels like there's like 40 or 50 now.
Mm.
So they're definitely proliferating. They're happy. I'm going through fish food faster.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty interesting. Okay, we don't have a ton more pre-prepared questions. This last topic around the Tesla is it. So if you guys have things on your hearts that you want to talk about, it'll be your chance in a second. I have a cosmic tower that we're using in our Tesla. Let's start with, is it safe to leave it in the car all the time?
Yeah, it is, unless you always have to watch the temperatures, of course, right? Because the cosmic towers do have water in them. So, well, you don't want to put it in a place to where the water would be freezing, right? But if you put it, let's say, in a garage, or it's not out a lot to where it really gets too cold below freezing, then yeah, you can leave it in the car. And also maybe not in the summer in Phoenix, where it, you know, might get 120, 130 degrees. But I mean, obviously temperature is really the thing to watch. So you don't want freezing or really excessive heat, right?
Are there any other reasons besides temperature to bring it in the house when not driving?
No, and honestly, especially like with a Tesla, which has such a detrimental energy, like all the electronic vehicles, it might be good to have a tower dedicated to that, like a 35, and really let it build up the field and leave it in there.
I think if I drove an electric car, I would definitely want a tower in there full time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It feels important, honestly. Okay, they have it set in a box with some towels around the base to keep it upright. Does this inhibit its ability to work at all?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect it. And what a lot of people in Holland do with electric vehicles is they actually put the tower in like a bag, and then they hang it behind the seat. So that they put the handles of the bag, you know, over the headrest, so it's hanging actually behind like the passenger or the driver's seat, which, I mean, I think it's a great solution because you don't have to worry about it falling over, right? You can drive it, and the tower always stays upright, yet you don't have to worry about it tipping over if you're driving fast or whatever. So I like that solution.
Yeah, I think having a base. So you remember, Nico, when I first traveled around, I had a 75 in my pickup truck, and I put one of those yoga bolsters behind my seat, and then I used the sash from my bathrobe, and I tied the top of the tower to the back of the headrest, and so I had it right behind my seat, and you know that worked, but it still had a like degree of instability. I think if it were a more permanent situation in my life, that I would you know, really build the right combination of straps and pillows and wedges and things. Seems like a pretty cool idea. Okay, guys, that's the end of the pre-prepared questions. So this now turns into a community conversation until we're full up, and then we end the call. So yeah, so we got space for anybody to share.
So this is Karen. Oh,
Hey.
sorry. Ed, do you
No.
want to go? Because I already talked.
No, I can or not.
Okay.
I can go after you go if you want.
All right.
Go
So
ahead,
going
Karen.
back to the topic of like pests and things like that, I don't have a tower. I have other devices that harmonize my home. This is why I'm reluctant, although I'm very interested in the tower as well. But I noticed that I think sometimes people create their realities, because I had a friend that came stay with me, and all of a sudden all these flies would show up. And she hates flies, right? And then I think she's just a powerful manifester. I'm not sure. But anyways, do you think that's just with our thoughts or our personalities, whatever, right? That things show up to like show us something? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even all the animals, I mean, we don't realize this, but nature, which first of all, we're a part of nature, right? Continuously communicates with us. It's just that we're so not in tune with it. I mean, I've went through a few periods in my life where I went through huge shifts, and I would run into 3 snakes in like 2 days. Like in Sedona, a rattler and a rattler again, like 3 rattlesnakes in like 2 days. And I remember the guy at the property I was at, he's like, we haven't seen one in like 7 years, so you must be shedding your skin and you must be going through a transition. And then happened again for me in North Carolina. I was going through that period, and it was like black snakes. There was actually one in the cabin under my bed that had made its way in, and I thought there was a belt like laying there, and then I realized it was a snake. And literally, like when I was going through these transitions, I had like 3 snakes just like in a matter of days, and not see one for months. That's just an example. So absolutely, we are a part of nature, and nature communicates with us, and all these things do have significance, at least from my experience. And you know, there's some books around that. I think Ted Andrews has his book Animals Speak, right? And it tells you to pay attention to all of it. Which direction are the animals going? How many are there? So yeah, absolutely, everything's interconnected, and our environment responds to us, and vice versa. At least in my book.
And a quick thing about the flies, I had to look it up. Flies, when they show up, is about quick change because they can turn 90 degrees, go backwards, right? Quick change. So that's what. So, anyways, thanks, Ed. Your turn.
Hey, yeah, Karen, I've had a lot of experience with animal totems, and I used to probably on a weekly basis have some encounter with some animal, and I would type into Google at the time animal totem and then the animal. And you know, I remember one time I was coming home from yoga, and this red-tailed hawk like went right across in front of the car, and I was like, oh, I gotta go look up the hawk again when I get home, and I didn't. And then on the weekend, my son was out in the yard, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, you hear that hawk screaming?" And there was like a hawk sitting up on the wind, like yelling. And I was like, "Oh, I got to go do that." But the kids were around, and I didn't. And so Monday morning came around, and I had the slider on my office door open, and this red-tailed hawk crashed into a holly bush, like just outside my door there. And I was like, "Don't hurt yourself. Like, I'll do it now," you know. And so then I, you know, went online to look at the message. And so I have found not only will they do that, but they will even like wholeheartedly and with ease and grace sacrifice themselves to teach me something. And it, you know, the first time that happened, it was like really hard to be with. And then I had an instance in particular where multiple animals sacrificed themselves to teach me a lesson. And I was like, gosh, this is really hard to be with. And for them, I get that it's just like a part of their service and a part of their connection, and that it doesn't come with like resentments or regrets. It's like this is their moment. This is what they were made for. And I've been shown that and come to understand it that way. You might interpret animals differently, but
That's beautiful.
I'm so thankful that they show up for us, and that they teach us, and I do my best to be really mindful of it.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Okay, Ed.
Well, I was going to share some of the things that I've been seeing, because I have been doing a lot of those measurements. And there's a baseline for the tower itself. And then if I add certain music and certain art, and then biogeometry, and it just keeps raising and raising. And then if I add on top of that chanting or a blessing, it goes even higher. And for the food and for my own self, I just wondered if anybody had any experience like this, or if Nico can address his experiences around adding the different things.
No, I mean, I love that you're doing that, and I do the same thing. I mean, you want to measure it, right? And then you make changes and you measure it again. And I just measured here like a few days ago when I got here, because the towers are here, and I measured like the BG3 in the room here, and it was like off the scale, right? So yeah, that's what I like about the towers, because it makes it relatively simple. You don't need all this knowledge, because you can add certain things, but it's not like more is always better, right? You really want to check and see, does it really like increase it, right? And then I've known with like the biogeometry, like everything is important. Like, is it in a certain position, right? And where you put certain things. So all of that makes a big difference. I don't work so much with the Bova scale. I work more with the biogeometry scales. But I know, for example, Tio has done a lot of measurements with people before they had their towers and after, and he says, well, I can measure it, but it pretty much always comes out to the same thing. He said, I mean, first, the environment is not very high on the Bova scale, to where it actually, in most cases, takes energy away from people. And then after the towers are there, it just increases. And definitely when there's big towers in the spaces, it just goes off the scale. That's what he's been seeing consistently. So yeah, but again, yeah, keep playing with it. And if like yourself, if you're able to measure it and you like to experiment with it, I mean, it's fun, right? Keep doing that.
Sharing, Ed. Anybody else? Dane?
I've had Grace, my cosmic tower, now for 2 years ago, this coming week, I think, and came in early March 2 years ago. And things that I've noticed, it's I've developed a rapport with it. I communicate with it. And I kind of took this advice from Harold Tears about, well, I'm going to put you in charge of technology. And it's a kind of dialogue. And when I did, I was having computer problems, and and this old Mac laptop and desktop, and I started to make noise. I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's slowing down, and I'm thinking, oh boy, maybe this is the end. It's a 2015. So I asked Grace for help, and wake up the next day. I had cleaned it and everything, nothing worked. Woke up the next day, turned it on, and it worked like a top. Just beautiful. And at the same time, another time I was having a problem with my internet, my modem and everything, and I was trying another service, and it just wasn't working out. And I took the SIM card from my old one and put it in my new one, and I was able to get high speed like I've never before. I'm only subscribed to like 5 megabytes per second, and this thing was sailing, and it's been going great ever since. I had to share those computer things because that's where it can get to me, and it really helped. Um, Most recently, I lost a signed check. I was putting in one of these ATM drive-throughs, and it fell in, and it didn't. And I realized I can't access this. The bank had closed, so here's a check, signed check, waiting for someone. Well, I came back home and asked Grace, well, can you help me with this? Can you keep me calm through this so I don't get all anxious about it and trust it? And that was it. And then shortly thereafter, before going to bed, I got this voice saying, check your email, check your phone, or something like that. And lo and behold, there was a message from my RV repairman saying he was checking out the Grant County information site on Facebook and saw that my name there. There was someone reaching out and a picture of my check saying, this was found. Is there anyone out there that owns this check? So I called her, and we connected on Facebook message, and geez, next thing you know, we're all, she said, yep, I have it, and where do you want to meet? So we met the next day at the bank, and I had my check back. And also regarding flies and pests and stuff. I've told the story before, but it's really worked. I've had time to test it. And so these flies the fly season would come into play, and they'd be flying everywhere, flying into my mouth for that matter. It's terrible. And so I said, Grace. I asked Grace for help. Get rid of these, just have them stay away from me, and no one gets hurt. So they've disappeared. They haven't returned, as well as mice. Come late fall, they're trying to find a home, and they used to be in here, and I asked Grace, can you get rid of these for me? And they haven't appeared since. So that was good. I'll have to warn you though, in a different story. Some friends of mine got a cosmic tower, and they had a big marriage disruption when it arrived. The guy was reacting to it, her husband, and so there was this controversy, and that I said, well, and it continued to happen. It was stirring up some unprocessed business that needed to be taken care of and discussed. So it was almost like the tower brought up this energy that needed to be resolved and go to a higher state. So they're in process with that now. I haven't talked to them lately, but I hope I said, if it gets real bad, just lying on its side. And she did, and things did change. Went back, kind of stopped. So anyway, I thought I'd add that to the equation here and share my experiences. But I must say, this dialogue I've developed with Grace is wonderful, and it helps me to speak things and my manifestation process and my life process. So yeah, that's it. Holla.
Great, thanks for sharing, Zane. It feels like Grace is a really perfect companion for the subtle energy that you immerse yourself in with your qigong, and yeah, that should be a good dance partner for you.
Mhm.
Interacting and understanding. Very nice. Beautiful. So thanks for sharing. Does anybody else have a question, comment, or anything they want to share? All right. Well, we're anticipating great things coming up Nico's on his way back to the States soon, and he'll be appearing in an interview with Alex Zeck. So got a wonderful platform for leading us forward in health, and we are anticipating the release of the Dr. Klinghart endorsement of the tower any week now. It's very, very close, and we're just finishing a new page on the website that's going to let us put Nico as a podcast guest in front of tens of thousands of podcasts very easily. So we're gonna plan to make Nico really busy talking about cosmic towers all the time. And if anybody has anybody that they're connected to, an audience you're a part of, where you regularly email the person and you think it'd be good to have conversations about cosmic towers or even aqua energizers, Nico and I are both available. This is definitely a growth phase in time for us, and so we appreciate introductions. A few of you have made introductions that have been successful, and new platforms are now talking about and recommending the products. So we're really, really thankful for those. The organic nature of it feels really good to us. So that's kind of where our focus is right now, is just getting the word out and having more people have experiences. And we appreciate all of you who are thinking about having an experience with the tower, and all of you that have an experience with the tower. It's all great, and all that are testing their experiences. The whole thing's great. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing. I guess we will we'll go ahead and wrap up. So thanks for coming, guys, and we'll have another Q&A the first Tuesday of next month at the same time, 3 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah, we'll see some of you then.
Thank you.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.